I'm concerned that too often we shy away from recognising the economic contribution and cultural contribution that those from outside our country who make the UK home make to our communities. It is not Britain being exploited. We gain from the talent, imagination and hard work that migrants bring to our country.
On that point, will my honourable friend give
Around 15% of all on universal credit are people who are not British nationals, and I think that's a reflection on the demands that it can put on our welfare system and of course on housing.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. And before we proceed with this video, it's very important to highlight the fact that this is just a parliamentary debate. Nothing have been concluded. Today, the 2nd of February 2026. Just in case you are not aware, there was a parliamentary debate regarding the extension of ILR from 5 years to 10 years. As we all know, there have been a particular petition that have been circulating on the internet for the past few months, and I think at the time I brought it to you. I mean the petition urging government to keep 5-year ILR route to existing skilled worker visa holders while removing access to benefit to new ILR holders. So guys, this is the main subject for this debate. The debate started when the MPs, came out with some valid points about how their constituents reached out to them regarding the exact issue, the problem they are facing, especially when it comes to the fears of uncertainty, things that may likely happen to them if government continues with this rule. And for the fact that they had promised these people that if you are able to live and work in the United Kingdom for 5 years, you should be eligible to apply for ILR. Gong national overseas visa holders, regarding how they left their country, they came here on a promise, and I think some of them acknowledge the fact that government exempted these people, these visa holders, I mean the Hong Kong overseas visa holders, from the extension of ILR. I think they dwelt more on the increased English language requirement. Right, I'll just let you guys watch. Please, as you watch, do well to like.
My constituent Amin by a pharmacy dispenser, a skilled worker from India whose work is essential to our community, raised concerns about recruitment and retention in health and social care roles. Alongside our investment in homegrown talent, does my honourable friend agree with me that we must make sure changes to ILR qualifying periods doesn't risk impacting sectors where we currently have heavy reliance on the talents of dedicated international workers?
These people are professionals. They are teachers, students, engineers, doctors, business owners and directors. They are in work, paying tax, buying homes, raising families and contributing to local life. They came here legally. They came because the British government made them a promise. In talking to them, what struck me most was not anger but fear. Fear that the basis on which they uprooted their lives is now shifting beneath them. Given the strength of feeling, the numbers affected, and the unique historical context as a former colony, I trust the government recognises that their recent changes, proposed changes to indefinite leave to remain, have or will have unintended consequences, and that this is a matter that they will want to address urgently. In Horsham, nearly 90% of B&O households are homeowners. Clearly, they are not a drain on public resources. They are financially stable, yet some will nevertheless struggle to meet the new income threshold. Some family groups include older applicants, carers or non-working spouses, just as you would expect in any household. Many cannot simply earn more to bridge the gap, and others will take time to move into higher paid work and transfer their skills and qualifications. So I asked the Minister whether the government will consider taking account of assets and long-term stability, not earned income alone, when assessing ILR applications for Hong Kong B&Os. My constituents are also deeply concerned about the English language requirement. In Horsham, 4 in 5 of them say that they are worried about passing the exam. And they are people that seem quite fluent when I was speaking to them. Obviously, it affects older applicants in particular. These families moved across the world on a promise from the British government, and there's now a genuine risk that that promise will be broken. In all honesty, I don't think this new law was ever intended to affect them at all. So my asks from the Minister are straightforward. Exempt Hong Kong B&Os from the new earned settlement criteria, provide transitional protections for those already on the 5-year settlement pathway, and assess household income, not individual income, to keep families together. Thank you.
Witherden.
Sir Edward. I wish to place on record my firm opposition to proposals to dramatically extend the timeline for the route to settlement, and in particular the deeply unfair plan to apply these changes retroactively. To now withdraw that promise is, as the Workers' Rights Centre has rightly said, an extraordinary betrayal of migrant communities. These proposals risk fueling exploitation, deepening poverty, destabilising already fragile sectors, and doing real harm to the wider economy. Under the new system, so-called medium-skilled or lower-paid workers, including nursing, healthcare and social care staff, could face a staggering 15-year wait before being eligible for settlement. This is not a pathway, it is a prolonged period of insecurity. Last Thursday, I met with a group of local Unison members, all migrant care workers. One told me that he regularly completes a long shift at Newtown Hospital, volunteers at Newtown Food Surplus, and then begins his next shift. I cannot think of a clearer example of someone who gives wholeheartedly to their community. At a time when our care sector is already facing critical workforce shortages, these proposals will drive people away. Research from the Royal College of Nursing indicates that up to 46,000 nursing staff could leave the UK in response to these measures. That would be catastrophic.
All right, my beautiful people, content of this video does not in any way apply advising the public or giving any legal advice of any sort. The video is just for information purpose, so you know what's happening around the UK. So let's move right into it. Just like this man said, if you listen to him carefully, you will hear him mention something about nurses leaving. I want to say that personally I agree with him, because I have seen and I've been in a conversation with some of the nurses, even, while working, in the NHS, in the local communities, seeing people complaining about what's happening. However, I will just let you guys watch the remaining part of this video and drop your opinion on the comment section. Kindly keep your comments very nice, and I'll see you later. Thank you.
Our migrant workers keep our health and social care system afloat. Punishing them with prolonged insecurity will only deepen the recruitment crisis and harm families and communities across the country. Diolch yn fawr.
To me, and for countless constituents who've contacted me worried for their livelihoods, it's profoundly and inexcusably unfair. Some don't know whether they should prepare to leave or continue with plans to invest in a new house, a job, marriage. Others are seriously worried about the status of spouses and dependents under the new rules. They're facing the reality of being entirely displaced, forced to abandon careers and personal lives, their colleagues, friends and homes. I've written to the Home Office, raising the fear and distress of my constituents and urging that at the very least they offer some certainty on indefinite leave to remain. Yet time and again I receive the same formulaic lines from the Minister, who refuses to provide the assurance that changes to ILR will not be applied retrospectively to those that arrived under the 5-year rule. Instead, my constituents are told that they must now earn their right to settle by attaining a minimum income level and proving their worth through volunteering. Numerous individuals have been in touch to tell me how upon their arrival in the UK, they spent time to complete degrees and master's degrees and on-the-job training to secure their places in valuable sectors such as science and innovation or our NHS. Now they're unsure if they can stay or if they can trust that even an extended ILR term will ultimately ensure their settlement. Others with jobs in areas such as adult social care, putting in long hours to ensure they're on track to settle status. Between putting in long, unsociable hours doing invaluable work in our social care system, they don't have the time to further prove themselves by volunteering. Women are particularly disadvantaged, a fact which the government is yet to acknowledge. Whether it's due to limited access to skills, the gender pay gap, greater caring responsibilities, or taking maternity leave, they too fear they'll not meet the government standard At the very least, I urge the government to treat these people with the respect they deserve. Will the Minister now rule out once and for all any retrospective application of changes to ILR and the addition of any new requirements to those already on the path to settled status?
The direction of travel is clear. A 10-year baseline for most routes, 15 years for care workers, as many members have mentioned today, with complex reductions based largely on salary. That fundamentally misunderstands what settlement is for. The key I will give way.
I'm very grateful to my honourable friend for giving way. Makes a very good point about salaries and that income levels are not necessarily a good predictor of usefulness to society and economic contribution. We've heard that very clearly about social workers, but does he agree with me that in high-tech sectors such as space, biotech, robotics, etc., we need global talent, and only by pooling those talents will we succeed, and that's why we should not be putting these barriers to indefinite leave to remain in place?
I absolutely agree with my honourable friend, and indeed I will cite an example of that from my own constituency shortly. I think the key distinction to make is between selection and settlement. Our visa system is the selection mechanism. We judge whether someone has the skills we need, meets thresholds, fills a genuine vacancy. Someone facing 10 to 15 years of uncertainty keeps their options open elsewhere. Another constituent who's been in touch is an orthopaedic surgeon, a professional serving our NHS. He has 3 children in British schools. He tells me that if these rules change, he cannot wait for another 6 years. He will leave, and our NHS and our country will lose him and his talents.
For this MP at least, and indeed many that I can see in this room, and cabinet ministers and shadow cabinet ministers, and even a prime minister, I am what I am because of when I came to this country in the manner this country treated me. I have 2 parents who couldn't speak a word of English, yet the support that we received means that now we have a dynasty of academics, entrepreneurs, professionals, and even a parliamentarian. I know that might be enough for a policy for people to make sure that never happens again. But we have a sense of belonging to this land, even though we are far away from our ancestral land. This does not happen by chance. It happens by design and can only happen in a country that promotes integration based on values of decency, respect, and contribution, rather than contempt, impatient, and transactional values. It works when a society respects values that should be woven into its fabric. When we value our care workers, our frontline health workers, our teachers, our transport workers, not because of how much money they earn, not because of their salaries, but because they are a foundation of our societies.
Turning to the subject of the first petition then, people who come to the UK to take up a job make an important contribution to our economy and our public services, filling essential skills and labour market gaps. But for too long, sectors have become reliant on them to fill those gaps and have not invested enough in our domestic workforce. The reforms we've set out in the Immigration White Paper last year are addressing that balance. We're reversing the long-term trend of an over-reliance on recruitment from abroad, we are instead increasing investment in skills and training for those in the UK. We implemented the first of those reforms in July last year, raising the skills threshold back to RQF 6, or roughly degree-level occupations, leaving a short list of medium-skilled occupations deemed critical to our industrial strategy and critical infrastructure. This restored the purpose of the skilled worker route and meant a reduction of more than 100 occupations. In December, we then raised the immigration skills charge by 32%. We are presently considering the Migration Advisory Committee's review of salary requirements before making further changes, and their upcoming review of the medium-skilled temporary shortage list in the summer. It's really important that we are matching the migration market with the skills market and, of course, the jobs market. And we are working hard in the Home Office across department to ensure that we're attracting the right workers to fill the jobs that we need to work. But I'll turn now to care workers. This government is immensely grateful to those who come to the UK with good intention. There was around 600,000 migrants coming to the country to fill just 40,000 roles in this sector.
Does he share with me a certain sense of irony that the former Home Secretary and the former Immigration Minister, who were responsible for giving those 616,000 visas out, have now joined Reform?
Right honourable friend for his point, very well made, and this place never ceases to amaze me. That's politics, I think. Some have raised during the debate the Unison's campaign around sector-wide visas. There is a commitment within the Immigration White Paper looking at how we make it easier for these workers to change employer. So that is being looked at seriously within the consultation. However, we do want to, of course, retain that ability to punish those dodgy employers who are dishing out visas when they clearly shouldn't be. This government is committed to providing opportunities for British workers. It's only right that we reduce reliance on international workers. On transitional arrangements, the petition also touches on this, and that is to say whether the proposals will apply to those already on a pathway to settlement. Now, I know that this is a hugely important issue, as we've seen here today. We've asked for views on this in the consultation, and I hope members will understand that while I understand the keen interest here, and indeed the concerns of many individuals, I cannot say anything that could prejudge the outcome of the consultation. And this will be published, of course, when it closes. There's been some really strong points made in the room today around family income, gender pay gap, those who are more vulnerable, those who are disabled, on university fees, and of course on armed forces concessions. And all of this is being considered within the consultation, and there will be more detail, and I can only apologise that I can't give you more detail on that today. The government has a responsibility to British taxpayers to ensure their money is spent in a fair and equitable way. It's therefore right that we reassess the point at which migrants can access public funds. We know the challenges the country faces, and which this government has inherited. One of the most significant ones is a serious lack of social housing. We're taking steps to tackle the challenge, but we must be realistic. I've already set out the number of people who are expected to apply to settle over the next 5 years and under our current system. All of those people could be eligible for benefits and social housing. I'm sure many of us here today will have constituents who have spent years on the waiting list for social housing. Continuing to add to that list will not solve the problem.
I know you gotta